Let's do it, man.
Okay, guys, welcome back to the Health, Wealth, and Sex podcast. Today, we are going to talk about the struggles of dieting, or the reality of staying in a calorie deficit for a prolonged period of time, and the kind of impact that might have on your behaviors, on your quality of life, and also, I suppose, how we can mitigate them, but mostly just to share some identification of what goes on when you're trying to get like really cosmetically lean, isn't it? Like, I would say that you can lose weight up to a point without these things cropping up too much, but actually to walk around cosmetically lean and sort of stay there as well is quite an interesting process. So I've just had a couple of weeks of post show. I was ill and everything like that, so I wasn't training. I came back into this week, I think, relatively sort of full and well. My weight was still maybe 10 pound up from previously, like my most depleted state. And as we were saying just before we started today, like fatigue and hunger's kind of crept in
Scott,
and
yeah.
is noticeable. Yeah, having sort of felt good all week, and that just means that I've been in a calorie deficit for, I don't know, 7 to 10 days, and my body's kind of caught on, I suppose. And Alex is dieting. How many weeks have you been dieting now?
I've been dieting slowly and steadily since probably about mid-Jan, but very, very conservatively. Again, for the reasons that you say, I've learned with my body that if I am very conservative with my calorie adjustments, but I basically diet over a long time frame, it doesn't set the alarm bells off in my system easily as much. If I can almost go underneath the radar, my sleep doesn't get impaired, my mood stays intact, recovery seems to be on point up to a point. You're always going to hit a sticky point at some stage where it's just like you can't hack this bit now. It's just shit.
So
But I've been dieting for a while, but not pedal to the metal sort of thing.
Yeah. So what's the sort of rate of loss then that you've been targeting? So you're 16 weeks out. I'm
Yeah,
6.
yeah,
I compete. I started dieting around about the same time of you, like maybe
yeah,
a week earlier. And I was on stage back end of March.
yeah.
Though not like stage ready. That's just the qualifier. Um, Still to be taken seriously. Don't
Oh
want to
yeah.
look like shit, but it's not like getting down to like 4% body fat. So my rate of loss is a bit skewed because I wouldn't recommend anybody do what I do in terms of like that rapid, aggressive fat loss, a lot of weight loss and suffering, and then obviously like normalizing and then dialing in for the shows kind of go down from that maybe sort of 7-8% body fat mark down to like 4 or something. So well, yeah, what's your rate of loss been like? Because you've not suffered the way I've suffered, I
No,
guess.
no, not at all, not at all. And again, this isn't. It's important to to mention that I have suffered a lot in the past. This is, some people like I'm just built different. I'm just like, no, no, I'm not built different at all. In fact, I'm incredibly vulnerable and breakable. My rate of loss has been good. I've had weeks where I've held. I've had weeks where suddenly I've had £2 come off, £1 come off, but I'm not chasing a scale drop particularly. What tends to happen, I have a rule in my head where ultimately for me, at my size, my body comp, um, weighing every 7 days, 5 to 7 days. If the scale is held, I simply pull out 100 calories. If it's dropped probably more than half a pound, I'll leave it be and run it for another week. Just with this idea, with that sort of extended time frame, I don't need, and starting off from a fairly lean point, I don't need to get overly aggressive with anything. So my rate of loss, probably, if I sort of took the average over all the weeks, it's probably in about half a pound to a pound a week. And again,
Yeah, I think that's like upper end of like comfortable. Well, not comfortable.
Yeah,
It requires application, and it's not
oh,
without fatigue. But in
but
terms
you
of like,
mitigate a lot of it. I
yeah,
noticed that again, and this is from my personal notes and my sort of my biofeedback. When I was at the end of a massing phase, I attempted quite recently a mini cut, some 5,000 calories. I pulled out 1,000 to 4,000 calories. On paper, you're still on 4,000 calories. It shocked my body so much for 2 nights I didn't sleep. And again, it's just I always think you're almost like a cat burglar. You're trying to go in without setting the alarms off. You're trying to, get, reach the objective without triggering the alarm system. And I find that 100 calories out every, I don't know, 3 to 7 days, something like that, in order to just get things trickling down, seems to work really well. You'll have the drop, you might feel hungry, you'll level again, and just a very softly method with me works best. If I go aggressive, does it have an impact quickly? Yes, but psychologically and emotionally, I suffer a lot.
yeah.
It absolutely affects me.
And so I suppose like take home from that is, I mean, you can diet how you like, really.
Absolutely, yeah,
But if you're like, okay, I want to drop X amount, let's say you got 20 key to lose, and you're going to try and do that in 10 to 12 weeks. That's going to demand a lot of your time, and after about 4 or 5 weeks with fatigue accumulating, it's not going to be fun. All right, you'll get there, but it'll start to be at the cost. Or as you were saying, there's like emotional, mental health aspects, sleep quality. For me, it's a lot around performance.
yeah.
Being able to work and kind of show up and just be switched on. And yeah, that I mean, being fatigued is kind of peaceful sometimes. I don't mind that necessarily. But being fatigued and having to show up for something,
That's the issue.
this is problematic. Like today, as we discussed, I had an early start today. I've done like majority of my activity by eating like a quarter of my food. Um, Trained back here for like noon, when normally I'm coming back from training around 3. So it's just truncated. And I've just laying down for a couple of hours, had nothing in me more to do. And I had to sort of get up and have coffee. And it's those pockets of fatigue that you're not really used to. Um, and how your day's set up. Like,
Yes.
okay, how lucky it is for me that I'm able to lie down, but it could have been that I had to continue working or X, Y, or Z.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and then I suppose there's like a net um, accumulation of doing that day in day out as well. You're just going to get worse and
To,
worse
to
and
to
worse.
have to will yourself to perform, we can all do that from time to time, but when you're on the third or so week of doing that, it's it's getting fairly unbearable. Food focus I tends to become very high. Again, there's loads of different ways you can do it. I come from, ultimately, again, the natural bodybuilding world, where when I was heavily in that phase, it was very big to do extendedly long, like silly long weeks worth of prep. I say silly long because it was around, but do things very gradually. And that always sort of
Mm.
suited my mentality as, right, buckle in. I'm not a sort of fly by the seat of my pants guy. This is going to take 25 weeks, but I got time. Do you know what I mean? And I think
Yeah.
that always appeals to me psychologically, whereas some people be just like, get this fucker over with. You know what I mean? 8 weeks, I want it
Yeah.
done.
I think the natty guys, they show up, the enhanced guys, so much because
Oh,
they show up like peeled.
yeah.
Like you never see an enhanced bodybuilding. And
And people will say it's because of the drugs skewing things. I don't
no,
know. I think the natural guys, they have two variables to focus on, and it's diet and it's training. And man alive, they have, the diet especially, they know that they all can't gain inordinate amount of size. Even the genetically blessed aren't going to, look, well, let's say look like Ronnie. I know Ronnie was allegedly prime at natural at one point, but what they can do to
Wait,
create a
until
look
he was 6.
until he was a toddler. But what the natural guys can do is come in bone peeled, and I always feel quite blessed to sort of come from that world because it meant that I felt for me, I really got good at training and diet
Hmm.
before going the PED route. Um, and yeah, man, alive, people like Ben Howard, Rich Godzecki, David Kay, Andrew Chappelle, like Lord above, they come in beautifully lean, every time.
Yeah. So it's like, I mean, I feel like the PDs, obviously they're going to allow you to hold more muscle mass while dieting, feel better while dieting, probably lose fat quicker. And I think that's the thing is like the that allows you to get to a certain point. And so what I've found is I get down really easy to pretty fucking conditioned, but then pretty fucking conditioned to legit stage conditioning takes fucking ages.
Yeah,
And what I'm not used to is what you're describing is I wouldn't dare not look at the scales every day because
yeah,
I want that average across the week so
yeah.
that I can have a sense check of my progressions. And I'll see quite significant weight changes and things depending on the food intake for the day. So if my food's as yours is consistent and linear, there's no high days, low days, whatever. Every day is pretty routine. Probably could do once a week because I see pretty much a linear drop every day until diet changes. And but it'd be trusting in that I'm trending down enough.
What was fascinating is everything you've said there, I agree with. It's better on paper for me to scale. Do you know what happened though? I brought my scales down. Said, right, I'm going to start, 16 weeks out, proper game time, so to speak. No more fucking around. I'm going to start tracking every day. Well, I remember stepping on
I'm
the
gonna start
scale.
messaging me every day. I'm up a
Yeah,
pound.
yeah, yeah. Well, this is it. This is it. The wheels start coming off.
Do I
So it's
look
like,
fat?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm a fat. What's happened? It's like kind of, and I talk people through this, but it's like, so do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to weigh in Here's what I tend to do. I weigh in every 7 days, but if the seventh day, if the weighing day shows me something utterly bizarre, I'll
Way
say,
again the next day.
I'll just check that. That seems weird. Um, I can also go by how I'm feeling in the sense that when I feel like very hollowed stomach feels like I know I'm getting a low. I know I'm getting a
Yeah,
low.
yeah, yeah. You
You
do,
know, you,
you
you
do,
know
you
when you're
do
getting
after
low.
a while. That's true.
Even when you don't, even when the number doesn't say low, for whatever reason, it's like I've been dieting this week.
Yeah.
My face is gone. I've been dieting this week. So I tend to find that again, it's and dieting, Jesus, that's a psychological game. Like, so I remove variables where I can get into my own head. And when I weigh myself every day, I get into my own head. From a data point of view, it's better. From a mental health point of view, it's worse for me.
There's actually I mean you can obviously go off visuals. That's something you have to be quite objective about yourself and skin. But there's actually some scales that just come with an app.
Okay,
You can stand on them and not look.
that's cool.
It'll log your weight, right? So and then you could just look every 7 days or something.
Yeah,
Or if you were working with a coach, then just either give them access to the app or
that's very good.
like once a week you just screenshot it, you know. So the scale weights. Well, I suppose what we're saying is it's not going to be the make or break that your scale weight doesn't shift day to day.
No,
However, However, scale weight, if you're going in the right direction, is going down. It's
Has
as
to trend
simple as
down.
that. Now, how
Precisely, and that's it.
quickly
Yeah,
is probably the misleading thing for most people, because like, yeah, maybe the bodybuilders, they can be less focused on it and more focused on the look and stuff like that. But a lot of people will be like, okay, for whatever, they'll pick an arbitrary figure. You know, I weigh 100 kilos, so my goal weight is to be 90. I'll be happy at 90.
yeah, yeah.
And that's admirable if you're overweight. That's fine. So every day that their weight goes down, successful day. And from their start point, they might be able to drop 4 pounds in the first week. You know, hooray! But if they're going at that pace, you know, they won't last very long, to be honest. Dietary
And we all have the client who you set up with the dart, and the first week is basically just washing off, crap. It's not even
yeah, if you
you've
got
just
into
simply
the
got them on a
second week and you're still ticking on at like more than £2 a week,
oh,
I'd be inclined to put food up, because what all that'll
agreed.
happen as well is that performance and output will just decline,
Yeah,
and the rate of loss will slow anyway. So you definitely need to protect performance across different metrics, but but like performance will decline to some
yeah,
degree. It's like what's an appropriate amount, what's a tolerable amount, what's not affecting my life. Because if you're like of the mindset that's like, well, I need to show up today for X, Y, and Z, therefore my body needs food, therefore I'm not going to diet today. Well, okay, you've lost the day.
yeah,
And if you're on a timeline, that's problematic. Where you've got a longer timeline, you've been able to have like deload, refeed
yeah.
every
Reverse quite a
6
lot.
weeks
Yeah,
and so on. If you give yourself a short timeline to reach a lofty goal, you're not going to get that, and you're going to have to take back that fatigue at some point. Maybe you can achieve the goal and then try and normalize for a bit before moving on somewhere else. I think a lot of people just rebound. So it's one show and done means, heavy weight gain post show. One holiday,
sure.
and it means all out on the holiday. Get ready
And
for
then
your
you're in a world of hurt because where do you go from there? Do you start re-dying again afterwards? It's
yeah. I mean, I honestly, like, since I was sick, like, it took me a while to get my teeth back into what I was doing. Like,
yeah,
I was eating the same things every day. I lost that pattern in a sense. I just didn't want to eat those anymore. But I
yeah, yeah,
hadn't found like a new pattern, so I was kind of macro matching for a few days or
yeah, yeah,
weeks, which doesn't work that great for me. I don't know why, but I like particular meals at particular
yeah,
times. It's just like, oh, that I know that meal's next. It works for me. It satisfies me up to the next meal, which takes me up to the last meal, which takes me to bed. Okay. And if I kind of get that wrong, I don't know, like, yeah, that sense of satisfaction, even meal timings seem to get thrown
yeah,
out. So it's just like, yeah, reinforcing my pattern again, you know, morning cardio,
yeah.
morning stretching, morning
What
post.
makes us
I didn't
happy?
pose for a couple of weeks post show, which was like, I mean, I was sick, but I just like, I don't know, just didn't want to,
Yeah,
right? And that's very much the case with dieting. So you do it for a while, and then you're not going to want to, so your adherence will slip,
yeah,
right? So kind of before that happens, I like, generally speaking, most people won't train so hard that they overreach before this. I like most of my clients to do like 6 weeks in a deficit
yeah.
at approximately £1 a week rate of loss, then 1 week on higher calories
Okay.
to either maintain that weight, or it can go up slightly. That's not problematic for me, while they also reduce expenditure. So steps down, training volume down, and then they move into another block. So we
Mm,
do £6, and then £6, and then £6. Now over 21 weeks, we've took £18 off.
mm,
That'll be the most
good.
comfortable I typically find that gets somebody in. And running higher than that, usually that's where they tap out quicker. So they might
Mm,
only get 2 blocks, which means they
yeah,
lost maybe they will deteriorate for the end. Maybe they took that £18, but now we're into like a period of kind of washing off fatigue, refeeding. That's when their adherence can slip, so they can feel a bit
Yeah.
directionless. It's very difficult to establish somebody at maintenance and wash off fatigue at the same time, because they just don't feel like they're doing anything. Then that lack of a dynamic trajectory just seems to impact adherence.
Yeah,
It does for me as well. Like if I'm like just at maintenance, like I don't hit the same amount of clean calories. It's like,
yeah.
I'm not training enough to really grow. I'm not in a deficit to get leaner. So it doesn't really matter if my steak and rice is a frozen pizza, you know,
Yeah.
but it does.
Yeah, oh, it
Does
massively does.
digestive impact,
Yeah,
which isn't even that bad, but I just see my physique soften out as
yeah.
soon as I move away from
You can
sort
tell
of
it,
like,
it's
well,
it,
not all traditional bodybuilding foods, but my foods.
yeah. I think I think what's interesting is that I think a lot of us get to eating the same foods or the same meals not through a sort of a monkish necessity, just simply the fact that if you're in this game long enough and you're serious about it, you gravitate towards foods that give you the best outcomes. It's not a matter of I need to eat this; it's my special magic food. But it kind of is for me. You know, it seems to produce a really good look. I feel great on it, enjoy it every time. Creates a nice, clean look, whatever. It's so visually that other foods don't. And I say, okay, brilliant. I enjoy it. I like it. I look forward to it. Creates a good look. So I think that, although people scoff that, oh, you're having your this meal or you're that meal, it's like, I am. It serves me on every level. Going back to what you were saying, I tend to, with myself and with people who are adherent, is pull calories down in a fat loss phase on a needs basis, always dieting people on as high calories as I can. And then, I don't know, somewhere in the 6 to 8 range where we've got a reasonable amount of fat loss off. Um, start, and I'm a rightly or wrongly, I'm a big fan of reversing. I found it the best with me. I found it to get some great results with clients too, where just instead of going straight to maintenance, is if they've got it in them, crucially, you've got to read them. And if they're psychologically still with it, say, look, I'm going to start adding food back in. Now, the exciting thing, and this is how you sell it, the exciting thing for you is you're going to see the food going back in. And if I do it carefully enough, that scale's going to scale go down. Now, I know they're not necessarily washing off fatigue per se, but eventually that's going to hit maintenance. They're going to have still been in a deficit. Physique will have improved, but calories would have been built up to back to where they were, and you set yourself up for another run. It tends to make adherence better on the
But
whole.
yeah, I mean, you're prolonging a diet, right?
Yes,
So,
I agree with that. Yeah,
so clearly they've still got fat to lose. They can be in better condition. They're not at
yeah,
that point where they're so lean that their performance would be impaired.
no,
That's common with
and
lifestyle
you've
diet.
got to read it. I almost don't run the fat loss to the phase to the very end before reversing. I almost include that reverse towards
Yeah,
the end before it gets them. So yes,
but
you are prolonging it,
in
but
a way, it makes sense because, as we know, performance like adaptations and things like your neat expenditure, they'll go down with the degree of deficit and the time
yeah,
exposed to that deficit and how lean you are and so on. So sometimes you put a little bit more food back in, they move more and they
yeah,
perform a bit better in the gym, and
yeah,
so they start creating as much, if not more
more
demand. And then you put food up again, demand, and then increase demand again.
precisely.
So where typically you're just kind of moving the goalposts around a little bit.
It's just a way to run things, and instead of saying to them, you would never say this is a dead time, this is a dead week or two. I say, hey, look, if you stay adherent, you're gonna see something, not in a hey, look, but you're gonna see something really magical here. Your food's gonna go up and you're gonna continue to, and it's like, well, now we know why that's happening, but they're really sold on it as they see that food get
Yeah.
to relatively high levels and body composition improve.
So
Magic.
the application, what we can say there is if you've been losing weight at quite an aggressive rate, but you've plateaued, right, and you feel fucked, you don't necessarily need to stop your diet. All right, you've got two real options. One is like a week at maintenance calories
Yeah.
and stelo to just wash off fatigue to allow you to push again. And the other one is to increase your calories, but still below maintenance, so that you're able to perform better, demand drops off. And that finesse approach will allow you to maybe take care of the household chores without as much fatigue. So
Yeah.
you don't need to dragging in motivation to do every fucking thing all day long. You can't do it. Which
Brutal.
you're gonna have to drag your ass to cardio because it's shit, and you're gonna have to drag your ass to training legs because it's gonna be hard. And so you've got like a cup of motivation that you can pull out of
Precisely.
yourself.
Yeah.
So that's internal motivation. So then what happens is we'll leverage external motivation, and that's okay as well, up to a point. But there's going to be this element of masking fatigue. So, fucking hell, I'm so fucked. I don't even know if I can train legs today. I'll have a pre-workout, go and smash legs. Oh, that worked. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You'll be more tired the next day. So now I'm going to train arms. Fucking hell, I feel fucked. Now you're on pre-workout to train
Big
arms.
workout. Double the
All right,
scoop.
now that's in. Fatigue's still accumulating. So now you're waking up in your morning. Morning coffee doesn't touch the side. So grab a can of Monster before you go and do your cardio. And then after your cardio, you eat one or two times. And then maybe it's time for training. So you have your pre-workout. And it's like, okay, and I get a few more days or a week out of that. And then fatigue's even higher. So it's 2 coffees in the morning. And so we can see what's happening here
Yeah.
is that we're driving sympathetic tone really high. We're kind of robbing Peter to pay Paul, because at some point that's going to start affecting sleep, which is systemic stress on the body. So, and then this is where we get to at the end of prep, isn't it? Like sleep's really shit, fatigue's really high, stimulant use is really high, typically, but it doesn't have to be that way. I doubt you're going to find yourself there. That's an
Try
overly
my best not
aggressive
to.
approach
Yeah.
with a timeline that doesn't allow for you to manage fatigue and wash things off and basically maintain performance to a degree. And once you're lean, right, can you perform optimally at 4% body fat? Well, I would say that training, probably not. Like, you're not going to progress in your training. So you're maintaining anyway, right?
Mm.
But I think you can feel pretty good walking around that, because you'll be on maintenance calories as long as you manage your fatigue well, because you don't need
Yeah.
to train the same degrees of volumes. Like, I've been getting on well with my training on lower volumes since I got back from being sick. I feel pretty fresh every day.
Yeah.
I know I'm fatigued today, but that's literally just impact
Yeah.
of the
Yeah. Yeah.
deficit. But in terms of like training performance, palatability, I haven't felt the need for pre-workout to go to the gym and do 8 sets. Like, seems like pointless.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is probably a good, like, I suppose, key point or key note is that if you've plateaued on an aggressive diet, then try eating a bit more and see what happens. All
Doesn't
right.
have to be, yeah, and it doesn't have to be one extreme to the other. So you're on a quite a decent deficit to quite. It's like just eat a little bit more. Like, okay, I'm not dieting super hard, but I'm not equally,
Yeah.
ransacking the buffets. Eat just a bit more. See what happens. Was it only like sort of, I don't know, 300 calories extra to suddenly lights to come on back home? Because you could be on, I don't know, 2,500
Mm.
suffering, but 2,800, you feel like a new man or a new woman. It's like, it's
Yeah.
only 300 calories. You didn't need 4,000.
If you've been on extremely low carbs, right, just putting in a carb meal can kind of bring you to
Yeah.
life, or help you sleep better, depending on where you put it. If you've been on extremely low fats and cognitive function and libido are tanked, then taking 300 calories and an extra 30 grams of fat makes so much difference.
You feel
You know?
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting to watch some of the guys come to life in a peak week. They're extremely lean. They've been on maybe like PSMF, so pretty much
Yeah,
protein
yeah.
veggies. Um, they have fats, and like they should come to life and feel great, And then you put carbs in, and their body comes to life,
Yes.
So it's pretty interesting actually. So yeah, navigating that space if you're dieting yourself, it's like listening to your body. Don't let it get so attritional that you can't function, and you inevitably kind of fall off before you've reached a goal. Um,
I
and
think
it's
yeah,
also important to acknowledge that there's going to be a body fat point where you need to climb up to, which you may not prefer to be at, in order to perform in training and actually like be optimal. So like bodybuilders, I don't even want to fucking go on the beach with my shirt off and everything like that, unless I'm like pretty much stage lean,
isn't it
you know.
just yeah?
And it's like, to the average, this would make no sense to the average
No.
person. So it doesn't. If we think about
Sometimes I go to centre parks, and honestly, mate, I don't mean this, but I get quote unquote worried. Fuck, I haven't like got an 8 pack, and it's like, you get there and you're like, what is that thought process about? Like, what a ludicrous way to think. He's like, I'm a shredded man in the baby pool. It's like I just didn't need
yeah.
to concern myself with that.
So all I hear in the gym at the moment, shredded, fucking looking like peeled, right? Looking big, and I'm like a bit flat. My ass isn't lean enough.
Isn't it? Yeah,
In fact, you wrote me, didn't you? She's
yeah,
like, yeah, you're happy, and I'm like, no.
no,
Ask
yeah,
me,
no,
ask me in 6 weeks, my glutes are in.
yeah,
Be like,
yeah.
yeah, I'm happy now. Cool.
I can totally relate to that. There comes a it's funny because obviously with socials and whatnot, you're in good shape, and part of the job is, I suppose, to promote the fact that you can get in good shape, live the lifestyle yourself, and you can do it for other people. And obviously, you get lots of people kindly saying nice things. It just doesn't register because not all I can see is the week, but it's like I know I can be better, not in a delusional sense, but I know I can be better. It's like I honestly, I'll say I'm doing okay, but not yet.
Yeah,
Give me the 16 weeks I've allotted myself. Not yet. One day maybe.
I'm
And I
really
think that's the
careful.
mentality.
I'm really careful with my coach Joe not to write like feedback that I think will pressurize him.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, there's pictures. Let's see what you think. But like this week, I was like, I think I'm behind. I think I'm behind. And so like, yeah, I'm hungry. I'm a bit tired. I've been feeling better than towards the end of the previous prep and being sick and everything. But so he's like, yeah, you're bang on point for 6 weeks out. Oh, sweet. Okay, cool. And he's like, we're going to just dial things up a bit here and remove some protein, some carbs, some fats. And I'm like, sweet. Like, what psychology is this? Like, I needed a dynamic adjustment,
Yeah.
like, just, I don't know. Like, if you said to me, hey, you're doing great, just keep going as you are. And I'm like, but I could do more,
Make a change.
suffer
Yeah, yeah,
more.
yeah, 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 yeah.
And he's like, we don't want to be in shape too early. And I'm like, yeah, no, we don't. I want it done. I want my
Yeah, yeah,
glutes
yeah, yeah, yeah,
tomorrow. Do you know what I mean? Like, if
yeah,
I thought I could get away with not eating today and still fucking perform tomorrow, that's what I would do.
yeah,
You know, but I know that I won't have striated glutes for that, and I'll fucking just be ruined for the week. So,
yeah, yeah.
like, I've got this degree of understanding and intelligence that's like arguing with my sort of drive and an element of impatience.
Yeah.
At this point, it's now month 4, nearly 5 months of dieting, and it's like, yeah, I don't really want to feel hungry.
Yeah.
I don't really want to
Getting to the stage where
accumulate
I'm done
fatigue.
with this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. And that, honestly, that's where bodybuilding just gets long.
yeah,
It's like prolonged dieting, staying in shape, doing it again and again, like doing a full season. It's just like accepting it and cracking on. That's just how it's going to be for quite a while. And I think a lot of people just want to run away in the opposite direction. after a diet. It's like,
it ain't for everyone.
yeah,
And here's the other thing: is like it ain't for everyone. I think it takes a again, not all of this. It takes a warrior. I don't mean that, but it takes a special sort of brain to sort of be okay. And when people say it's just not me, I can't do it. It's like oh, I get it. It's a skill set. I don't know why some of us have it and some of us don't, but it's a thing.
like those conversations where it's like how you doing? Yeah, I'm good. Just really tired, from the diet today, or da. And they're like, why don't you eat more then? I'm like, because I won't be leaner tomorrow.
Yeah,
And they're like, but you feel like shit. And I'm like, yeah,
yeah,
kind of have to. And they're
yeah,
like, why would you do that? And I'm like, to look a certain way. And
yeah,
they're like, I'm not getting this.
yeah.
No,
Okay, get down
and
there.
you can't expect them to. They
No,
never will.
no, not at all.
Why would they?
Yeah.
Why would they? I know a lot of people like rail against it, like people don't understand. I get these weird remarks and da da da,
I
and it's like, well, of course they don't fucking
no,
understand.
it's it's an obscure thing we do.
What you're doing is pretty irrational.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Enforced starvation for a cosmetic outcome in a subjective sport,
Yeah, and
right?
also it's not like for example, if we were in like the NFL and or it's like, and here is your $1 million contract to be like, oh, money. It's like, no, 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 not for us.
We we exist in a bizarre space where to win, right, we actually have to compromise performance.
Yeah,
Every other sport is about optimizing performance. Right. Our focus on body composition means we compromise performance. So it's very strange in that regard. And then in order to win, you need approval, um, which, like I say, is probably on the most abstract terms. So, okay, in order to win, you need the best overall balance of muscularity, shape symmetry, and conditioning. All right. And so already, like, what is the ideal shape? Or X frame or something like that. And sometimes I think it's very apparent,
yeah.
when C-Bum walks on
Oh,
stage, right?
bang. Yeah,
And people pull apart his physique. It's like his arms aren't that big, or did it? But like his the way everything comes together is it just looks right. So sometimes it's very clear like that, but sometimes when you're presented with five very different looks,
yeah.
and you have to decide which one is better than all the other ones, right? Most every other sport, it's like you beat your opponent,
Fair and
within
square. Like, yeah.
defined rules. And so, yeah, like I say, we do this really. It's just a really
Because
strange.
there comes to a point as well where it's like it's not necessarily which is better. Like they're all, like there's when the standards are high, they're all good. It's like, what's your personal preference? And then it's so subjective, like I like number three or whatever. It's like
Yeah.
when everybody's
Well,
on
no,
their A game, it's structure, isn't
yeah.
it? And
I do think the IFBB judging now, like Tyler Mannion and how
yeah,
he does those breakdown videos,
yes, yeah.
they're really useful. Um, because he's like
I thought that
literally
was cool. Yeah,
breaking down each individual's shape, symmetry, conditioning. In this case, although the conditioning was slightly less than this guy, his muscularity and shape was such that he placed ahead. Or, yes, that guy was undeniable in that one pose, but that guy was better in five of the
yeah,
poses,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and two were very close. That's why he's the winner. So,
That's quite cool though, isn't it? When you can go, okay, it's not just a hunch who's better. They're clearly very well thought through, analyze the physiques, very good at ultimately what they do.
yeah. And like, I do find the judging in like NPC, IFBB quite consistent.
Yeah.
But sometimes, especially on like some of the amateur shows, I'm like, I'm looking and there's a guy or a girl and they're like, so they're just undeniably the best,
Yes.
just on all those metrics, and they get beat, and
What?
you're like, any layman is going to pick. And this is quite an interesting thing. It's like if you present 10 physiques to a layman and say pick out the best one, right? Um, they'll pick probably like the most aesthetic,
Yes.
really. We've all got a sense of aesthetics, and so for some individuals it might be different, but we're not asking like who's the most sexually attractive to you here or
No, no.
we're almost we're saying what's a classical conception of the human form, and that's a construct that's been going around since sort of like, I don't know, Greek statues and things like that.
I was going to say it's probably almost innate in us somewhat, isn't it? Like kind of we innately know, we don't, cognize it to sort of
Yeah,
say it's that one. It's like so you sort of almost more drawn to it from a
with the
biological
male
point of view.
form, the female form is a little bit trickier because
Yeah,
you can even see population like proportion trends. So like what is the impact of say Kim Kardashian having a big bum and being like that considered to be a desired aesthetic versus 90s stick thin
yeah,
is now a lot of the female population work hard for a big bum. As at one
yes,
point they worked hard to be skinny as fuck.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
at one point we celebrated a Rubenesque figure. And so for women, I think it's much more of an abstract.
And it keeps shifting, doesn't it? Seemingly.
Yeah, and I think that social media speeds that up. So it's like
Yes.
people pursuing a certain look. Pursuing a certain look is an interesting thing to explore because it's like I'm unhappy with myself. I like this aesthetic, and if I look that way, then I will be happy. And that's not going to be true. It's just not
No.
bodybuilding. That's like not body dysmorphia, but a lack of acceptance that you yourself as an individual will only ever look like you.
Yeah,
And
I was just going to say the same thing when you say I need to look like that person to be happy, it's like no, you'll look like Alex, but like the amped up version of Alex, and it's like that's cool. That be happy with that, but I'll never look like Tom. Do you know what I mean? It's like if I'll one day I'll look like it's like you won't. You'll look like a good version of Alex. And it's like I always think sort of putting your energies onto something else and really it's there's a lack of self-acceptance. There's a lack of something at your core that maybe you're overlooking you.
yeah, and I also don't agree with like, um, okay, gonna I'm gonna accept myself as I am and love myself as I am when there's like a need for lifestyle change
Mm,
because you're not very well. And if you're very obese and life's a struggle, um, and you know your health is shitty, all that stuff's going to get shittier. Quality of life, illnesses and things like that. That's going to cascade over time. So, like, I don't care what size you are, what shape you are, or anything like that, but if you're not looking after yourself, you're not going to be living your greatest life. And I don't think we should be celebrating that attitude.
no,
Yeah, acceptance of all body types, but if that person isn't thriving, I don't think that we should sort of take that and glorify it.
pat them on the back. I think there's mental gymnastics going on where people will attempt to avoid the work or the change at all costs and build a narrative around it to allow them to escape. This is an excuse. It's just that I love myself so much for who I am. So, and I'm wonderful in every get. Like I think you've seen this recently with Hollywood movies where, unfortunately, especially with the female characters, they've tried to almost sell this message that women are inherently divine, brilliant right from the outset. They don't need to do nothing except, just sort of realize their divine femininity. And it's like, that's the wrong message. The message is for all humans, work hard, reach your potential. Ain't nobody born awesome. You can become awesome by learning and working hard, but no one just pops out of the womb freaking ready to rumble, do they? It's like you gotta work for this stuff, whether you're a man or a woman, and it takes time, and you're gonna lose a lot as well. It's ain't no way around it.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So it's a double-headed sort of message in a way, because it's like, yeah, I'm pro body acceptance,
Mm,
whilst also messing around with my look non-stop. Um, I work for my own aesthetic, not somebody else's, but I present that for judgment against some other people's aesthetic. What I can say is that, like, I'm happy with the way I look, like I don't have like self-hate or anything like that.
no.
But that didn't come from like bodybuilding. That I had to like work hard on my sort of self-loathing,
Mm,
and what's the word? You don't rate yourself.
yes. Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I can't think of the word.
um I don't know, muse for a second.
Inferiority,
Yeah,
or
like inferiority complex.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, anyway, and where that comes from, you're fat shamed as a child, and or whatever, and you spend your life thinking you're ugly. How do you reverse that pathway that you've reinforced every day when you look in the mirror and sort of said to yourself, I don't like the way I look, or because somebody told you don't look right,
Mm,
and you can carry that forward. Bodybuilding is useful in dieting as well, because you can kind of change that narrative.
yes.
um, I don't like the way I look right now. I don't like this aesthetic. You can empower yourself to change that aesthetic. If you look in the mirror and you're like, I love myself, I love my aesthetic, great. Now, if that doesn't line up with you being the healthiest, okay, you don't necessarily need to work hard to change your aesthetic, but you might benefit from being more active, eating a little healthier, or eating more, being a bit less active. Like, everyone's on like different extremes with this stuff. Um, like, I think the beauty in like bodybuilding, learning your body, learning how to eat and everything like that, is like you learn how to feel good, perform, elevate yourself, and take your body in different directions, almost as play,
Yes.
like I'm very much like, okay, I'd like to bring up my arms now. So I'm thinking about the best way to program bringing up my arms. And I'm going to focus on that for a few months and see some tangible progress. And I was okay. My arms got bigger now, and I like the way that looks. And I think I'll look even better with a bit more width in my back. So I'm going to
Mm.
train, my lats a bit more now. And you're into this kind of sphere of play, which I think is important. To
Bodybuilding, when you get good at it, it puts you in the sort of the driver's seat. So you can choose to accept how you look, but you also have the opportunity, should you so choose to
Yeah,
improve things further. But and that is paradoxical in the sense of, when you realize you have the ability to improve yourself, you almost relax into it, because like, this is great.
well,
What will tomorrow bring? What will I feel like doing next month? As opposed to, I'm at the mercy of my body. You
yeah.
you you are able to play with it more.
I think for both of us, um, we we go, right, I know what to adjust in order to elicit a cosmetic outcome. I also know the cost of that adjustment, and I'm willing. That's a reasonable cost for me. All right, that's going to shift for different people and different goals. Um, we don't negotiate with food. This is another thing. It's not a constant like up and down. I shouldn't eat this. I'm going to the fridge. Oh, like we eat well enough, that we're sort of liberated a bit. So if I don't want to be hungry anymore and don't want to be tired anymore, I want to increase my food. Right. I know how much to increase it, and I know approximately the time frame where I'm going to start to feel good again. There's no negotiation with food. I'm not sat there like, oh, I really want a pizza. I shouldn't have a pizza. Da, 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 da.
No, you're not fighting
Like,
yourself.
yeah, if I wanted a pizza, then I'd be like, cool, I'm going to have a pizza. I know the impact on my body. I know the cost. And am I willing to pay that cost or not right now, depending on my goals? So um, I think where you get a bit lost, it's like you don't really know how to diet, and you really don't know like how to manage fatigue and exercise appropriately. So you know that doing lots of exercise helps you lose weight. Sometimes maybe too much cardio or too much hard cardio, because actually you're chasing a cosmetic, not weight loss usually.
Yeah.
And then it's like, I know if I eat less, then I'll lose weight. So the immediate thing is like I'm disgusted with myself. So I'm not going to tolerate this anymore. I'm going to sort this shit out. I'm going to eat 3 chicken salads a day. I'm going to go spinning class. I'm going to run.
Kitchen sink, isn't it?
Maybe train with weights. I know. And I'm going to sort this shit out. And for the first week, it goes pretty damn fucking well. And then it doesn't. It all falls apart because it's unsustainable.
Yeah.
And oh god, I just can't seem to stick to a diet. I couldn't stick to that fucking diet.
I say this: if bodybuilding was chicken,
Right.
broccoli and chicken breast, count me out. I
Right.
can't do it.
And I am not going spinning twice a day, ever.
Yeah.
Never ever. And if I thought I had to do that for a week, I'd think, fuck this shit. So it's
Yeah.
what you think, right? What you think works, which has come from shitty messaging, frankly, for ages. It's like, in order to get to look shredded like this, I've got to do shitloads of cardio. I've got to eat fuck all.
Like eat like a monk. Yeah.
Yeah. And what you're doing is you're eating well, just a little bit less than you need. You're training with weights and you're walking. And guess what? You look lean and muscular.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, and
And it
yeah,
doesn't suck, and it's sustainable. You
yeah. And
know.
where's the where's the glamour? Where's the cool selling point? Where's the magic? I just cut out gluten and I got shredded.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I
That
went
one little
vegan
trick
and I
they
got
have or
shredded.
whatever
None
on
of this is
YouTube.
ever true. I did carnivore and I got shredded. If you started off eating too much, sedentary, whatever, eating crap, and you switch to carnivore and you eat well on carnivore, you're gonna do pretty fucking well.
Yeah.
All
Same with
right.
veganism, you
But
see.
you might not be optimal and you're still restricting. And there is restriction involved in getting in shape as well. Let's be clear about that. It's like you can't just eat what the fuck you want and be in shape. All right. We're hardwired for that to go wrong.
Yeah.
All right. You probably can't diet on hyperpalatable processed foods. They're not satiating and stimulate more hunger, and you'll overeat. You just will. In fact, all of the diets, strategies or not, they have certain common themes: high protein, high fiber. Like, where is the McDonald's diet? Right, I could write one.
Mm.
Pretty easy to do 800 calories from McDonald's. That's when we go one meal a day, and it's McDonald's.
Yeah.
All right, but yeah, you just cannot stick to it. And if
It
that
just
800
doesn't.
calories was from vegetables, you'd be like, and you got it out raw weight. If you got out 800 calories worth of raw vegetables, you'd be like, fucking hell, this is a lot of food.
Yeah.
Like, you'll still get as hungry, like in terms of your appetite signaling and stuff like that over time, um, as any other diet strategy. But the volume of food will be much higher. You'll probably feel quite a bit better because of all the micronutrients and stuff like that. You'll probably have better energy. So it's probably a bit more sustainable for a bit longer.
All the
I
popular
do,
diet and
I find it interesting. Like there's so many different ways to drop weight. But when it involves a radical lifestyle overhaul that's unsustainable, so two shakes a day and a sensible evening meal, yeah, that's okay, and like it'll work for a while. But are you gonna spend the rest of your life
Doing
eating one
that.
small meal and having two
You've bought
shakes
into
a day?
that. You got to do that forever. Yeah, I think it's like a lot of these, let's say these fads is you are removing usually an entire food group and then going,
Yeah,
wow, this is awesome. So it was keto that there was the
yeah,
magic. It was vegan. It's like you've just removed protein, you've just
yeah.
removed
I just,
carbohydrates, you've just removed all the fat. It's
I
like kind
just
of
think you've not learned a sustainable pattern, because it's not got enough variety in it. So it's like as soon as you do eat carbs again, everything kind of falls to shit. Um, Dropping, can you imagine normalizing off carnivore? I've not tried it. Can you imagine reintroducing food? So meat fundamentally is just not gonna be like inflammatory. So then I try and put in some fruit or some vegetables. I'm having a pretty nasty digestive response. So
yeah.
it'd take ages. If you've been on that for a while, you'd be convinced that that's the only thing that you can eat. You'd be a bit trapped, wouldn't you?
It's the feeling of being trapped. I've got to stick to these ultimately arbitrary rules, which, from a biofeedback point of view, I can tell aren't working because intuitively, when you're on these things that, like almost day two, this ain't sustainable. This isn't going to work. And I think that what's interesting about all these things, I was talking to somebody recently quite similar about this, is when you have an abstract diet, let's say veganism, just not picking on vegans, but you have veganism because of the sort of people it who gravitate towards that extreme. Soon veganism isn't enough, so it becomes fruitarianism, where you can only eat fruit, and then it comes breatharianism, where you don't eat anything. And it's a bit like well, keto. If you look at sort of, so you go keto, and now carnivore is not quite, but it's sort of the extreme of low
You would
carb and
be.
keto.
I think you would be. I mean, you'd certainly be fat adapted. Like, I can't see
Oh,
carnivore working without high fats. I've not seen that
I,
presented. It's all about fatty meat.
yeah, yeah. This is it, and I think, look, let's be honest. We have to be honest with yourself. Do I really just want to eat a meat only diet for the rest of my life? Because this is what this book or this guru is saying to do. Like, as much as I like a steak, do I want to eat subsist off steak or
Yeah.
whatever for the rest? It's like,
It's just
do I do I
normalize,
fuck it? It'd be awful. It'd
normalize.
be like a death sentence.
You cut out gluten and then reintroduce gluten. You probably be convinced that gluten's not for you because
Yeah.
you're not gonna tolerate it.
But
So
what it always interests me is that let's say you get into your head that you don't want gluten or whatever, or that maybe you do have a gluten intolerance. It's like, okay, so you can eat meat, you can eat fruit, you can eat honey. There's still a brilliant load of colorful foods you can eat. It doesn't mean so carnivore it is. It's like, no, that you just literally gone to such an extreme. You are inflicting that suffering upon yourself.
yeah.
It is a set of arbitrary rules, and the problem is it's always packaged by a smiley faced guru
Mm.
who's not
So
even in shape.
okay. So what diet strategies are helpful? So I've got a few. I'm sure you've got a few to share. One, fasting. All right. Simply having your first serving of food a little bit later in the day allows you to have a reasonable amount of food at regular intervals. So I think it's quite easy to fast in the morning. All right. That works well for me. Um, Having protein and fiber with every meal, I find helps. All right. Not going too low on fats or too low on carbs. I mean, that's going to be a bit of a needs basis for me, but for the majority of the time, having a mixed macro split,
Yeah.
I think lends itself to more successful dieting. Splitting up your servings of food so you don't get overly hungry and making sure that you've got a decent amount of food at the end of the day, because as your body relaxes, and it makes sense to eat well before your restorative time, your sleep time anyway, but making sure that you've got a decent evening meal so that you don't have to deal with the stress of being hungry, before bed.
Yeah.
I
Yes,
think
that's a
that,
good one.
yeah, I think those help. 0 calorie soft drinks, I find help with adherence.
Completely.
And I think to a degree, we can leverage appetite suppression. So, like in the morning is when I caffeinate, and caffeine suppresses my appetite. So it's easy for me to fast, and I don't get hungry until sometimes I wake up hungry, but it goes away pretty quick. So yeah, to some degree, I think we can leverage some appetite suppression as well. And look, fuck,
Mm.
if you literally have no willpower, semi-glutide, why
Yeah.
not?
Yeah.
And if you
That's it.
do have willpower, but hunger's distracting and problematic, sure, leverage semi-glutide. It's not going to be, I cannot really like leverage um, these things because the food volume required, they'd suppress my appetite to such a degree that
Yeah.
the food volume required would be difficult to eat. And what I've found, and I don't know about the next gen retatrutide, which I'm quite keen to try because it suppresses all appetite regulating hormones, is like the leaner you get, the longer you're in a deficit, your appetite regulating hormones will kind of fight that suppression
Mm.
from the GLP agonists. And ultimately, you'll end up still hungry and still
Right.
negotiating food. But then there's still this kind of like weird stomach volume thing. So it's kind of like
Yeah.
your stomach's full, maybe to almost uncomfortably full because that's how the drug makes you feel. But you've got this drive to eat.
Yeah.
And that's why I find like things like stomach stapling and semi-glutide, it's like after a while, you'll start to get hungry anyway, but then your stomach can't really handle food. And you probably do need to eat more. And you're in a bit of a problematic cycle there because you've not really learned how to like manage your food. You've not really learned anything. So if I lost all my weight just by taking semi-glutide, but there's no resistance training, I've lost muscle mass, there's no real like increase in activity. I'm just only able to eat 3 chicken nuggets at a serving. All right. Or I've had my stomach stapled. So my stomach can literally only take a small amount of food before like I physically can't fit any more in and I'm in pain. But my brain's still saying eat. Ooh, this is not a space to exist. And I've got
I
lots of
think,
clients.
yeah.
When I say lots, I've had like 3 clients that have had a gastric bypass or a gastric band, whatever you want to call it. I don't really know the difference. But they're fat again.
Mm,
But their
yeah.
stomach's really small, and they're fat on like 900 calories a day.
Jesus. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And you're like,
I
okay,
think there's, let's call it spiritual practice or whatever you like. Learn to make friends with hunger. I'm not talking doubled over crippling hunger, but oh, the recognition of a sensation. Oh, I'm hungry. I feel like I could eat food, and not panicking. Don't panic. You don't need to rush to the fridge. It's like you're going to be okay. You're a bit hungry, and almost, sometimes when you're in a dive, enjoy that sensation. It sounds silly. The level of alertness it brings, the fact that you biologically feel switched on, and you recognize it. Oh, I'm hungry. I'll eat soon. Um, it's not something to be scared of. Like it's all
we're not
right.
we're not used to it, are we? Because it's the food's
No,
so available. It's kind of like I'm peckish, so I'll go and eat.
I need
You
to go
know,
and eat. You don't. It's like what you throw that sort of thought. What if you don't go and eat? What if you sit with it? It's
yeah,
like emotions, isn't it? Like sadness arises, or you can I'm sad, or I'm jealous, or it's like don't necessarily have to act on it. The feeling has arisen, you acknowledge it,
yeah,
and
being
it's like kind
emotionally
of
reactive
yeah. It's like
or
otherwise you just
trying to
act
mute
on every
them.
sensation.
Yeah. I don't want to feel this way, so I'm going to have a drink, or
Yeah,
I don't want to,
absolutely.
I don't really like the way I feel, but ice cream fixes it.
Yeah,
Uh,
ice cream masks it absolutely. Rather than sort of, I'm not saying
Temporarily.
it's like putting your hand in the fire. It's like it doesn't feel pleasant, but you can tolerate. What if you tolerated it? What if you sat with it? What if you let it burn just a little? Like kind
Yeah.
of just let's see.
Some things are so powerful, though, man. Like
Oh yeah.
you got to take them in small doses. Like if you've had a bereavement or something like that,
Oh yeah.
and it's like you need a drink or something like that.
Dude, have a drink.
It's just
Yeah.
you have a break. Yeah,
Yeah.
you have a
Yeah,
break.
I did. So somebody says to me, X, Y, and Z's happened to me in my week, and I got fired, and it's like kind of, I hope you don't mind. I went 200 calories over, and it'd be like, it's fine. Like, I had a Kit Kat. It's all right. Don't worry. Like, how dare you? It's like fucking enjoy that Kit Kat, love.
Yeah,
It's not a
I would
problem.
still like to pull that apart, and I'd be like, okay, I'm banking that. So that client, when they have a bad day, um, they reach for
Yeah, yeah.
they seek to
It's
soothe.
data, isn't it? It's
If you're
interesting.
seeking to soothe yourself through food, you need to find a different way to soothe yourself, if unless you want to just stay where you are.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
No, yeah, no, I agree with that. I agree with that.
yeah,
But in terms of, I tell you, back to where you were, and like a hack. I agree with everything you said in terms of, the occasional sugar-free soda, calorie carb backloading, whatever you want to call it. To some degree, I'm not talking like literally shoving all your calories at the end of the day. I tell you, one of the best ones is, and it's an obvious one, but sometimes it's like this epiphanous moment. Some people, it's like, hey, you really want to be able to sort of regulate your appetite and not even overly focus on tracking calories or whatever. Is get yourself a piece of protein, decent chunk of protein that's not necessarily super lean. Have some leafy greens with it. Have one or two pieces of fruit with it, and like a hot drink afterwards. Let that sit. See how you feel. It's like in it itself. It's like there's micronutrition in there. There's protein in there. Some quality fats in there. Um, you've got maybe the salt from the the on the meat. You've got the sweet from the fruit. It's like now just sit with it and watch. Usually, as the body just goes because you've just
yeah.
provided it with such a lot of hits for what it actually needs.
Sometimes I feel wrong, like anxious, because I need to eat.
Yeah,
All right. And those people get hangry, don't they?
yeah,
And they're
yeah.
irritable until they eat, which is quite interesting to observe. What do you think of those CGMs for non-diabetics? So it's like, for me, it's just like if I get an expensive continuous blood glucose monitor, and I'm constantly managing my blood sugar, that'll help me lose weight. I mean, I don't think that's like gonna work. I don't see how it'll probably help you make smarter food choices, and then so does Fitness Pal. And so
No,
this for me falls into like the educational device market. So like I don't know the impact of foods on my body, but this device tells me,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Um, okay, what do you need to know? The glycemic index has been around for a long time.
Mm,
All right. And if you want to manage your blood sugar, make sure that you've got protein and fiber with every meal. It's
precisely.
simple, you
Yeah.
know. If you
I
don't
think it's
want
one of
to
the
manage
yeah,
your blood sugar, eat carbs on their own.
yeah,
Blood sugar will go up. What's the problem with that? Um, my pancreas is working. If I'm not in a fucking surplus, it's even less
yeah.
problematic. This is the problem when you're lean and you're in a deficit and you just eat carbs on their own.
You
You're going to
spike and
have
crash.
a very profound blood sugar response to the point where you might go hypo, but you'll probably just fucking get sleepy. It's just not conducive to performing for the rest of the day. If I was going to do a single serve of carbs, I'd probably have it before bed.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
wouldn't be a bad strategy.
No, yeah, quite soporific. I think yeah, it's funny things like that. I tend to find it's like again, it's that idea of majoring in the minors. Not that sort of blood sugar is a minor thing, but if you're looking to lose body fat, look to some well, to largely to the degree of calories in, calories out.
Yeah,
You get people focusing on the wrong things, like you say. Oh my God, my blood sugar's spiked. It's like okay, well. why aren't you eating maybe a more whole foods meal? Maybe that's a better
Yeah,
strategy. And the negative of that is that blood sugar will spike and crash, and it'll almost create a hunger sensation. So,
yeah.
like it's almost like a false hunger
If
reading.
I
But
spend all day managing my blood sugar, then I have to eat protein and fiber to do
yeah,
it.
yeah,
And therefore I'm eating more whole foods, and therefore I'm eating in a way that's more satiating, and therefore I'll
yeah,
probably
yeah,
lose
yeah,
weight compared to
yeah.
what I was eating before. Like it's an educational tool.
Yes.
Like, oh fucking hell, that fucking I don't know, massive bowl of pasta spiked my blood sugar loads.
Who'd have thought? It's like,
Yeah, I was going to say the information's already out there. You don't need to spend the
we know
money.
this. Yeah,
You don't need to spend the money. In fact, we do know, right, what a good plate of food looks like. It's like Sunday dinner,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Right?
100%.
A portion controlled Sunday dinner, it's like ticks all boxes. You've got protein, carbs, fats, vegetables, like
Yeah.
whatever, fiber. Um, yeah. And then, execution. That's what I wanted to ask you. So, how easy is your diet to execute?
Mine,
Yeah.
I could do it again now because I'm a flipping robot. I could do it half asleep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and crucially, some meals that I know when I'm out and about are purposefully a piece of piss to execute. I don't sort of set myself up for difficulty. It's all designed for ease of access,
Yeah.
and it's designed around my ultimately my life. It's
Yeah.
not hard to access. It's not hard to execute. If it was hard to execute, there's the potential that it could fail. I don't want it to fail.
Yeah. Pack of chicken, apple. Cool. That's
Done.
fine. Yeah,
Yeah.
easy to. So
I have
people,
I have I have tin of mackerel, kiwi, dark
yeah.
chocolate. Bit of
No,
a bizarre combo.
I can't do all that. I can't do all that meal prep. Come on,
No,
not fucking cooking 6 meals from scratch. 6 elaborate meals from scratch a
I
day.
think that's the thing. It's the
I put
elaborate
some
meals. Like,
fruit
do you
on
have
top
any
of yogurt.
recipes? Do you have any recipes? I like get the steak out, put it in the pan. Put an apple on the side, put some broccoli in the microwave or whatever, or some spinach. Ta-da! It's like I
Yeah.
ain't taking you through how to cook lasagna from scratch.
I'm sick of eating dry chicken and hard rice and broccoli. No, I'm not surprised. So
Me
one, you
too.
can't cook, so like that's probably a skill you need to acquire. And two, like you could have had a chicken sandwich.
Yeah, yeah. Just eat nice food that's easy to put together. Don't turn every day into Gordon Ramsay's cooking show, like you say, where
No,
you've got all your raw ingredients from
no.
scratch.
I do think that is a benefit in building a relationship with food. Like
Oh yeah,
you spend a bit of time, can you afford to spend a bit of time cooking your evening meal? Um, can you put a bit more effort into your food at the weekends? Can you eat out from time to time? All that kind of good stuff. Um, I think it's still worth having a good relationship with the kitchen.
yeah.
But you don't need to set yourself up for oh, just mega time costs, you know,
Efficiency of time.
quick to eat, quick to prepare that's how you get successfully through the day. And then in the evening, when you got more time, you can spend a bit more time
You might have a more
together.
elaborate meal there. Yes, yes, but
Mm.
but ultimately, again, don't make yourself suffer. Make it easy on yourself. It's not meant
Hey,
to be this hard.
there we go. That's probably a very good point
Make it easy
to
on yourself. Yeah.
wrap up on. So, what have we learned about dieting generally? Make it easy on yourself, and you don't have to suffer too much.
Yeah, those would be two brilliant key, takeaway points.
That's
It
probably the
doesn't have
most
to suck.
sustainable approach. Make it easy and work for you, and don't suffer too
Yeah,
much.
don't lean into your suffering as a barometer of success. It's a poor measure.
Yeah, yeah. A bit of fatigue and a bit
A
of
bit.
hunger
Yeah,
is,
yeah.
is probably
Those
about.
are good signals to register. But when they're going off to like an 11 or a 12, you've shit the bed, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, you'd better be close to your goal, and your goal
Yeah,
had better be
yeah,
extreme for
you better
those
be
to be
stepping on
high.
stage if you're there. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And that's just the reality of going to an extreme, is that you're going to encounter extreme psychologies,
Yes.
behavioral issues, like those, and that honestly doing it on repeat is the only way to sort of navigate that. Is that, you've got to have dieted to get exotically lean multiple times in order to be comfortable doing that. The first
Yes.
time you
To
do it,
know
it's
it. Yeah.
worst. The second time you
Yes.
do it, it's a bit better. The third time you, and so on and so forth. And your relative start point, if the better your start point, the further you'll be able to go before you get that kickback. And if you're in a really terrific position, you can have almost no kickback at all. You know, if you're hypermuscular, pretty fucking lean, eating more food than is comfortable, then you might be able to get lean with. In fact, you might feel better every day. You know,
Yeah.
getting
Well,
down to
that's it.
exotically lean. That'd
That's
probably
it.
be the optimal. So yeah, maybe the final take home is like, be in a good position to start dieting, be active already, have those patterns of moderate exercise, resistance training, whole foods diet all in place. And then, as you were saying, you should remove 100 calories. If my daily meal pattern is set up a certain way and I just take away a pack of microwave rice, I'm in a deficit and I'm moving.
Bang, you're in. Yeah.
That's the ideal start point.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, most people that are looking to diet are in the worst possible start point. They
Yeah.
have relatively low muscle mass and a very high body fat percentage.
Yeah.
And in this case, it's not necessarily a good idea to start off with a calorie deficit. What's best is to start building a whole foods diet, being active so you can eat a bit more, training with weights so you at least look after the muscle mass you've got, if not build more, and just get yourself in a good position so you can apply a deficit. So yeah. Yes. Okay, good. So that's probably it for today. Anything else that you want to throw in at the end here?
No, that was lovely. I enjoyed that very much. I do enjoy talking about dieting, one of my favorite subjects. But no, that was cool. In fact, I might go and get some food after this, just to tie
Yeah.
it in.
What are you going down for?
I think I'll go for some pork, peas, pink lady apple, and some dark chocolate. I already know
Okay.
in my head.
I can have my homemade burgers or my chicken and asparagus meal next.
There you go.
So I have a commitment at 5. So my eating pattern's not so important today, because I'll
Bit
get
more
back and I'll eat
flexible.
anyway. It's just like, I don't need to navigate, because it's, for me it's important. Like, normally I'll have my burgers as the next meal. They're on
Mm,
like a wholemeal bread, and that takes me through to the chicken and vegetable meal, and then I
yeah,
finish
yeah.
with a Greek yogurt meal.
Nice.
And that for me right now is like the best pattern of enjoyment,
Yeah,
adherence, satisfaction, all the rest of it. But today I know that I'm going to be out and about and occupied, just having
yeah.
some social time. So I know I'm not going to be thinking like about the next meal 20 minutes after I've eaten.
No, yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
I'll be a bit more
Actually
relaxed today.
distracted. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Cool. So, guys, hope you enjoyed the podcast today, and do leave us comments on YouTube. Please like the episode, share, subscribe if you want to get notifications about new episodes when they land. That is episode 11. And that is, what did we talk about today as an ostensible topic?
Eating, something to do with eating, dieting,
Yeah. What
something
we've
like that
what we've learned from dieting.
over the years. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Then that's us for today, and we'll see you next week.